Hi, everyone. Welcome to Adobe Live. We are here to talk about the new features that were just released in Adobe Lightroom. My name is Ketron, and I lead the photography community efforts at Adobe. I'm very excited to be here with our guest, Brian Matiash, who is one of our Lightroom quality engineers on the Lightroom desktop team. So, are you ready to get started, Brian?
You know I am. Let's do this, Pay.
Yeah, you're always ready. You and I both love talking about Lightroom, so I'm very excited to be here with you. We've also known each other for not very long, I'd say like a year and a half or so, but it feels like we've known each other for a lot longer, right?
That's right. Well, yeah, that's because pretty much everything that you share online gives me FOMO and it gives us an opportunity to talk about that. Because
Yeah.
Pay goes to a lot of really cool events that I would love to go to as well. And where are you, Pay? What did you just attend?
I am in London. I am fresh off of Max London, where we had just over 1,000 people attending live in person. We had an excellent keynote. We had some creativity sessions, a creativity super session, they called it. It was a really wonderful day, bringing people together, creatives from largely all over Europe. Um, and I had a lot of fun. So I'm tired, but I'm excited. We released a lot of really cool things yesterday. And one of the products that we released new features for was Lightroom. So I want to get into that a little bit later.
Sure.
Before we dive in too deep, I would love to learn a little bit about you and what you do at Adobe. Um, Not everyone, well, okay, to take a step back, how long have you been at Adobe? Tell us a little bit about your current role and how long you've been here.
Oh boy. So I started at Adobe officially on September 30th of last year. I joined the quality engineering team on Lightroom, but in February, I converted to an actual like full-time, you know, bona fide Adobe employee. So I've been here. I can't do quick math from September to now, but it's been what, 6 months, maybe a little bit less. But I have been working in the Lightroom kind of universe for over almost 2 decades, actually, which is kind of
Wow.
crazy to think about. And
Yes. What does that
yeah,
mean? You've been working in the Lightroom universe for 2 decades.
yeah. I mean, I started like most of us. I started using what is now called Lightroom Classic back in like 2006. Even before that, when it was still like a beta, and I don't know what it was, but I just started creating content like blog posts. Back then, it was mostly blog posts and like photo tutorials. Um, and I when Lightroom, what was called Lightroom CC, came out, which is the kind of the cloud or newer version of Lightroom, I switched to that pretty much full. And about 2.5 years ago, I saw no one was serving that audience of users. We had all these users who were using Lightroom Desktop and Lightroom Mobile and Lightroom Web, that whole ecosystem. No one was really, or few people were creating content for them to help them. So I decided to go full in on that. And ultimately, there was an opportunity to join Lightroom as a quality engineer, which to me is like it's one of the best things. If you're kind of like a super freak about a certain product, being a quality engineer is one of the best things you can do because it really requires you to dive into the app.
I know that you're a super freak about Lightroom. This is one of the first things that I've learned about you. It's probably
Yes.
one of the things that I would put as like the first descriptor of you, honestly. No offense. I
Yes.
think it's
No offense.
fantastic. I love it. I am also a Lightroom super freak. I'm not sure if I quite reach your levels. You have a deeper technical like understanding and grasp of everything than I do, which I love, and I know that's going to come up later as we get deeper into our conversation. Um, so you and I met for the first time probably about a year and a half ago. I invited you to be a part of our Lightroom advisory board. So that was just a 1 year thing that we did. You came in as a community member who was just so deeply invested in Lightroom, so deeply knowledgeable about Lightroom that it was a really just like a perfect thing for us to bring you in to be a part of. And, before we even finished the year as a full Lightroom advisory board, you joined Adobe and you came in as a contractor before quickly converting into full time, like you just mentioned. In those years preceding your joining the team, were you a full-time Lightroom educator? What were you doing? I feel like you have a deep and storied history with, in the like photography editing software world. Tell us a little bit about that background of yours.
Nice question. I like that, Faye.
Mhm.
Yeah, I I've had it's an interesting career, if I can be, if I can say that, where I've had some really cool opportunities to work at a bunch of different companies in our universe. So I worked at Google on the photos team. I've worked at On One. I've worked at Topaz Labs, at Wacom, Sony. Like I've had different opportunities to do cool things in the photography space, whether it was the software or the hardware space. So it kind of gave me an appreciation for both sides of it. But in between that, and sometimes during that, I just had my own business that was primarily based on education. So like the what I would do mostly would be to either create content for YouTube, or I would create like more premium courses. Like I would create like these really in-depth courses that would help users specifically on the Lightroom. That was kind of what I kind of like hitched my wagon to was Lightroom, specifically Lightroom desktop, mobile, and web. And so that's what I did. And I still, one of the things that I'm so happy about is that even now I still get to create YouTube videos, which I love to do because like one of the nice things about my role is that I get to see, I mean, really dig into Lightroom, into the new features. And it's not just me. Like, I, I am just the smallest part of an amazing team. And, if you think that I'm like technically deep with Lightroom, I mean, I am amazed, just sheer amazement at the knowledge that my team has about Lightroom. But the point is, the reason why I like creating this content is because I know at the very least, the content that I put out will give the full breadth of the feature. It'll kind of, I also try to always show like if there's a known kind of like pothole to avoid, or if there's like I'm going to show you in a bit a bug that we fixed. Normally, that's not something that you would cover in a video, but this fix is it's so important for people who use the Lightroom to Photoshop interoperability that it's worth highlighting. That's that big, in my opinion. So yeah, like that's what I did. And what I do now is something a little bit different, but it's still just totally like it's the best. Like I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I feel like in all of your different roles over the years, photography has always been at the core of what you've been doing, but you have approached it from different angles. You said even, from the hardware angle, from the software angle, but even just from the software angle, you've come at it from like a marketing perspective, from a product perspective, now from
Right.
this QE perspective. So it's pretty impressive the level of engagement that you have across the board with all things Lightroom, right? You're not solely technical, you're not solely, looking at things from the marketing perspective. You have this like very broad understanding of all angles of the business, which I think is offers a really unique perspective. So I'm curious now, even when you first joined, you and I had conversations like, so what exactly does a Lightroom, what does a QE do? Can you tell us a little bit about that for folks who are watching who might not understand or know what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to paint it in very broad strokes. Any feature that you see, let's take landscape masking, perfect example, which is something we just announced yesterday, which I'll show you in a few minutes. That's a feature that has to be budgeted into the roadmap. Like there's a product manager who's like, we're going to do this. There are designers who are like, okay, this feature is going to look and operate this way. There are developers who actually implement the feature. What a QE does, a quality engineer, again, broad strokes, one of the things we do, one of the core responsibilities is when that feature is put into Lightroom before it's released, even before the feature in some cases is in Lightroom, what I would do is I would start coming up with what are called test cases. So right off the bat, the first test case is usually the easiest. It's writing a test to determine whether the feature operates the way it's supposed to operate in the most straightforward environment. So like if you check this box, did it do the intended result? Did it behave the way it was supposed to? That's just one way, one test. Then there are all these other tests, different scenarios. Does it work the same way in cloud as it does in local? Does it work the same on Mac as it does on Windows? Does it work the same if you enable HDR and then you enable this feature? Or if you enable the feature first and then you enable HDR? So I try to come up with test cases for a feature that will take into account how the majority of our users could be reasonably expected to use the feature. Then there's also the unreasonable side, which what we call the edge cases. Like, and that's that to me, that's where I love to live, is the edge case side of things where it's like, how did you even think to do this in this way? But if we can come up with test cases, if we could foresee that possible route that a user could take, and if that ends up yielding a bug, well, that's the other side of what I have to do is file bug reports. I have this fascination with filing bug reports. Like to me, bug reports range from like juicy bugs to like kind of like, okay, like a cosmetic bug. Okay.
Mhm.
But the juicy bugs, oh man, I love filing those because it's like if I can get that bug filed before the feature ships, then our users will be in that much better served by us because we have taken the time to really explore that feature and identify like, okay, there are some cases, we ship features in some cases as what we call early access, where we know that there are certain restrictions. One of the things, for example, that I'll be showing later is we rolled out reflection removal in Adobe Camera Raw.
Mhm.
Up until yesterday, only supported raw and DNG files worked with it. But as I'll show you in a bit, we've expanded that. So point is, that's what a QE does pay. I hope I didn't ramble
Mhm.
too much, but basically, it's making sure that a feature is working the way it was designed to work and also working in ways that maybe we didn't foresee.
Yeah, perfect. No, I love that. And I also love that through that description, I now know that your next bio or bio statement should be like Brian enjoys living on the edge and quashing those juicy bugs.
Yes, the squasher of juicy bugs would be a
The
title I would be
squasher of
happy.
juicy bugs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Although to be fair, just to
on,
be fair, let me give the credit to the
yeah,
developers too. I file the bugs. It's the devs.
for sure. That's true.
They are yeah. I just say, hey, this is broken and needs to be fixed. They go in there and they fix it. And I love just being part of that team. Like
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah, you mentioned this earlier, but we have a pretty incredible team. So I personally am not currently on the Lightroom team directly anymore. Sadly, I've moved over to the community team, which is a wonderful place to be, but I still have my little talons hooked into the Lightroom team. So I'm still claiming that I'm on the Lightroom team. Don't tell anybody. Technically, I'm no longer
You're
officially on the
always
Lightroom team,
you're
but I
always
think
on the
in
Lightroom
in
team.
in spirit, I will always be there. So thank you for saying that. The Lightroom team is incredible, full of very talented people who are so passionate about their jobs, what they not just like the job itself, but the product itself and what it does. And our team across the board is full of photographers. Not everyone would claim the title of photographer, but so many people on the Lightroom team are photographers and they're building the product because they personally love it and they're trying to build the product that they want. And so I think that that adds a different kind of spirit and feel to the program overall. It's not just a job that somebody has because they're building something because they're paid to do it. It's because they genuinely feel passionately about Lightroom and photography and making it better for everyone. And that I just love that. So you also have a background in photography yourself. You're not just like somebody who feels passionate about photo editing software. You have a passion for photography. Can you tell us a little bit about your photography?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think one of the best parts about being on the Lightroom team is so many of us dog food our own product, meaning it's a kind of a dev phrase of like eating your own dog food, meaning like we use our app heavily. And it's not just like we build it and we ship it out and we don't really know what it's supposed to do. One of the things for me, per your question, like photography is like, I mean, it is a critical component of my life. I've been practicing it for since really seriously since 1996, since I started college. And without going into too much detail, I mean, it really kind of saved me from some serious anxiety issues that I had. And for like most people, when I started, I didn't know anything about it. And I just back then it was before digital was really entered the consumer space. So I was racking up serious like film development costs. But as I got a little older, especially in like the early 2000s, which is such a weird phrase to say,
Mhm.
like we're from the 1900s, which is now my
Yeah.
favorite thing.
We're so ancient, Brian.
We are, but it's good. We've got the
Yeah,
wisdom to share. Um,
that's right.
yeah, I mean, the photography has been, I believe there are three um, key pillars in photography where an individual can infuse themselves. And the first is the actual composition. So, like taking the camera and the lens and going out, and you can put 10 people in front of the same thing and very easily get 10 different photos. So, that's the first thing. And I love photography, I love traveling. I love landscape. I love like waterfall photography, but living now in South Florida, I don't really have access to that as much. What I have access to are birds. And so I've been really diving into bird photography, which is why I've got those gigantic lenses behind me.
Mhm.
The second pillar is editing. So I love the composition. So I've led workshops. That I've been on workshops as a student. I think the process of going out, even with just around your neighborhood with your phone. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating that you need one of these big boys to get good photography. I'm just saying that get out there and train your mind's eye to visualize compositions. And then the second pillar
Mhm.
is the photo editing component, which is why I love Lightroom so much. I'm Yeah, I work for the company, sure, but I'll go on record. It's by far the best experience that a photographer can use in terms of managing and editing photos. That's why I love being here. That's why I use Lightroom and nothing else. Like if there was a better, and I've said this before, if there was a better program out there, I would use it. So editing is where, again, 10 people take 10 different photos, but let's say 10 people take 10 of the exact same photo, and then you bring into editing. Well, I'm pretty sure those 10 people will come out with 10 different edited photos. So that's another place where you can infuse yourself. And then the third is
Mhm.
the sharing component of it. How you share your photo, with whom, the story that you tell behind it. There are all these opportunities here, especially now with more immersive sharing that we have. It's just, there are all these three different ways that an individual can really kind of practice and grow their own sense of their photography, their style. And that thing also evolves. It's not something that's etched into stone. The kind of photographer I was, if we just stick even with the editing side of things, if you were to look at my photos from the mid 2000, early 2010s, oh man, to today, I never remove them. I never get rid of them because I
Yeah.
like to look back at like who I was.
They're
And
part of
yeah,
your
it's
history.
cringy. Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that gives a lot of people, when they see that, it gives people almost like a sense of peace. Like, oh, okay, like you don't have to be born with this like amazing sense of editing. Like it evolves as you have to
Mhm.
invest in it. It shouldn't necessarily just come, with nothing. But it's one of those self-fulfilling things. Even if you start with just one-click presets, you see it. I know inherently that's going to make you go down this path of like, okay, well, what else can I do? How can I tweak this?
Mhm.
Which will bring you into, more of a understanding of photography and best practices.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned that really stood out to me is the fact that 10 different photo, even if it's not 10 different people taking the same photo, if you literally take one photograph and give it to 10 different people to edit, it's going to look, it's going to have 10 different looks when it comes back. So what this is not a new feature in Lightroom, but one thing that I wanted to call out is that we have this really wonderful feature within Lightroom called Remix, where
Oh yeah.
if you, as somebody utilizing Lightroom, wants to share your edit with the community, you can. You can go in, share your photo, and turn on, there's a little toggle that says allow remixing. And that means anybody who goes to the Lightroom community, they will see your photo, they will be able to click on it and apply their own edits to your image. And it will just show up as a remix of your image. So if you're ever bored, I know one of our former Lightroom ambassadors, Roberta Dall'Alba, shout out to Roberta. She's amazing. She's a food photographer in Italy. She said to me, when I'm bored, I just open up Lightroom and I start remixing images for fun. So it is kind of a fun way to spend your time, but you can go in and look at these images and just see how vastly different photographers will edit that same image. So it is a really cool little kind of hidden feature. I feel like not a lot of people know about it. It's called Remix. Go into the community section of Lightroom, click on a photo, see if you can remix it, and then look at the other remixes that other people have done. So
Somewhere Katrine is just like, thank you, Bay.
I know
She,
I did that for Katrina.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I will actually show that when I,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That's perfect. Yeah. Actually, so why don't we go ahead and get into some of the Lightroom side of things, right? So we've been talking for about 20 minutes. I want to make sure we have plenty of time to go into some of those new features that we just released in Lightroom yesterday when we had our big Adobe Max London event here. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you go ahead and take it away, Brian? Do you want to share your
Yeah.
desktop, show us some of the new things that we announced? What's new and exciting to you right now?
So even before I do, really quickly, I do want to show people. So this is Lightroom Desktop here, and this is something that is in desktop. It's in mobile, and I believe it's in web, but I'm in desktop. Let's stick with desktop. I just because this is the thing when I show a feature, one of the first questions people ask is, where else is it available? So community, you're going to expand that. I'm going to go to my profile here, and I'm just going to look at one of my photos. And here you can see what Pei was just talking about. These are other people. So I shared this to the community, and other people remixed the image, so you can see what they did, which to me is just like one of the coolest things. And so you can click on Remix Original, and you have access to the entire Lightroom editing stack, so you can just re-edit my photo, and I'm all for it. I think it's one of the best things ever. So that's just so that you guys can visualize what we were talking about. So what I want to do is I'm going to start talking about a new feature called landscape masking, and I'm going to start talking about it by showing you a portrait photo of me. The reason why is because I think it'll help visualize, especially if you're somewhat familiar with Lightroom, what landscape masking is. So this is a photo. Also to further illustrate what Pei said, like this was taken at Adobe headquarters in San Jose, and this was a whole bunch of us on the team. So Katrine and Chris Ayers and Rick Floor set up these lighting booths so that we can practice photography with different lighting. That's how, I mean,
Very
we
cool.
really are. Yeah. So this is a
I was
photo of me.
actually going to ask, is this a self-portrait? But you got there
No,
first.
I think Katrine got this photo of me. Oh, yeah, from it was awesome. But what I want to show you is this feature here. So this is not new. If you go to masking here, when Lightroom detects a person, under masking, you'll see this people section, and there is me. And it knows it's me because I went into the people section over here and I told Lightroom that this is me. So it gave my name, Brian. But when you click on this, what you'll see is you have these individual attributes, these component masks, and you can see them listed here. There's facial skin, body skin. So that's all there is for, I just want to show you that there are components to a portrait photo that pretty much every portrait photo shares. What if we apply that same principle to a landscape photo? Now, straight up, this is an AI generated image, but the reason why we have it is because it allows me to illustrate the feature in its fullness. If I go to masking, just like before, this time I'm going to go, this is new. This was released as part of Lightroom 8.3, Classic 14.3, and Lightroom Web. You'll see landscape. Like portraits, most landscape, pretty much all landscape photos to some degree or another have common attributes. So here, these are all the attributes that you can have in as part of landscape masking. There's sky, mountains, architecture, vegetation, water, artificial ground, and natural ground. And that's the only reason why I have this image here is because we know this image will generate all of the attributes. But I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm actually going to work on one of my own photos. Let me close the photo drawer so we have a little more space. Usually the things that I do up front very quickly, I'll do things like very quick global edits, like apply adaptive color and maybe get a custom white balance. So that's all I'm going to do here. I'm not going to do anything else because I prefer to edit locally, meaning I like to make edits specific for the sky and specific for the water, specific for the rocks. Before though,
Brian,
yeah,
before you go on, can
sure.
you explain what adaptive color is?
Oh, sure. So
Great.
this is a relatively new feature that was
Hmm.
inherited into Lightroom that came from Adobe Camera Raw. So adaptive color and adaptive black and white down here are, I would say they're AI-powered profiles that take into account the specific details of your image and make, I would say, intelligent changes to light and color. You can see if I go to Adobe Color, which is the default profile here, this is the state of the image. But when I apply adaptive color, you see how it just does this beautiful job of kind of correcting tone, correcting color, to the point where if I just wanted to share it this way, it'd be fine. It also factors in if there was like a person, like a subject, for example, in the foreground, or in this case here, the sky, it doesn't just apply this global edit. It actually will make select like edits specific to the person or the sky that are different than the auto button. So much so that if I click on auto with adaptive color, we even give you a warning saying, hey, not the best idea to use both because adaptive
Hmm.
color and adaptive black and white really kind of have done the job already. So we don't recommend it. So I keep this up here because when I show people, normally I would just tell you, click don't show again and click don't apply. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's
that makes
adaptive.
sense.
Yeah. Thanks for calling me out on that, Pay, because probably the first thing I do these days is apply adaptive color. It's just so good.
Yeah.
So going back, what I was saying is if we click on masking, I mentioned how we have this landscape mask and it operates the same way as portrait where it has attributes that I showed you. So here you can see I've got, it detected the sky, it detected what's calling vegetation, water, and natural ground. So I can select these components here. And like, even if I want like natural, you can see this, like you've got natural ground here, which has the mountain in the background, and you've got vegetation, which is almost like it fills in the gaps, which is awesome. So I've got this box here called create 4 separate masks. If I don't have this selected, the mask it would create would be this entire image. But I want each of these individual attributes to have their own mask. So I'm going to click on it. And now you can see I've got my masks. I've got sky, vegetation, water, and natural ground, which allows me to
And
make, go ahead.
you didn't even have to name those manually. Those are just auto
Yes.
created mask names. Amazing.
So good, Pay, because yes, I am one of the things I always advocate with masks is click on the little try dot and select rename so that you know. Because imagine these weren't named. I mean, it's so much easier to see, oh, this is the sky. Oh, that's the water. We do that
Yeah.
for you we also do that in portrait. So I'm going to go ahead really quickly. I'm going to apply a little bit of a dehaze. I'm going to drop the highlights in the sky a little bit. It's a bit punchy. And I'm also going to cool the temperature just a bit and increase saturation. So I'm going really quick because I want to make sure we show everything else. Vegetation, I'm actually going to go the opposite way. I'm going to warm the vegetation up a bit, and I'm going to increase saturation for that. Water. So water here, I'm not going to touch temperature, but I do want to add a little bit of clarity and texture because you can see it's got really nice movement from the long exposure. Also, it's very rare. This is taken at Gunlock Reservoir in southern Utah. It's very rare to have waterfalls in the desert, plus having snow-capped mountains. It's a cool
Yeah,
phenomenon.
you caught that at a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like doesn't happen often.
As someone
So
who
here,
grew up in the desert, I fully recognize that. So this is great.
exactly. Arizona, right?
Yep, Northern Arizona.
Yep. So you can appreciate this. So
Yeah.
I've got water edited here, and you can see the changes of each one by clicking on this little eyeball icon. We call it a mute. So if you click on it, it hides it temporarily, or you can click this one up here, which hides all of the masks. And then finally, natural ground. So natural ground, I'm really going to warm that up. I'm going to increase saturation. I'm also going to add a point curve specifically to the ground here, which is one of my favorite things that we can do as part of masking on desktop is apply these point curves, which is basically adding a custom contrast. So there's that. I'm also I'm going to drop the saturation of that. And I'm going to add my clarity, my texture, because those are hard surfaces that have natural texture. And so that's basically my local adjustments. You can see what it does. When I edit, my editing style has evolved where it used to be a lot punchier, and I'm moving more towards kind of natural with a little bit of emphasis.
Mhm.
So with this done, you're free to finalize your edits, like applying sharpening, removing it from where you don't need it. And I'm basically pressing the Option or Alt key while dragging this reset slider. And then maybe a vignette, like a really, really quick vignette over here.
Yeah. That the image has changed so much and has gotten so much richer with just a few simple edits that you've done. I want to call out really quickly. I
Hmm.
know we do have a chat. If you guys are watching and if you have questions, if anything's not clear, if you want to see it again or want Brian to talk a little bit more deeply about anything, go ahead and drop that in the chat and we'll make sure we answer that for you as well.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to move on now to Lightroom Mobile because one of the things that I love and that I'm a big advocate for is the sharing experience using Lightroom Mobile. So this is my iPhone. It's sitting like right over here, but I'm mirroring it on my screen. And so I'm going to launch Lightroom Mobile here. And one of the things that I absolutely love that we did was we improved how you can edit portraits using quick actions. So let me open. This is a photo of me and my wife, pretty much unedited. If I press and hold, you can see this is the original. So there's really nothing done to it with the exception of a little bit of a crop.
Can you talk a little bit about quick actions as you dive in?
Yep, absolutely. So quick actions, it's accessible by this little magic wand icon here. We introduced quick actions last October at Adobe Max 2024 in Miami. And it's basically the way I explain quick actions is for the new user, it's like Lightroom 101. It gives you access to some of the most powerful tools in Lightroom without necessarily having to learn how they work, like masking, for example, like all those things that can intimidate a new user, but they might want those benefits of masking. Quick Actions kind of automates it, and it does it actually in a very intelligent way. So, for example, before, let's say I start by clicking on auto, so it just applies an auto treatment to the image. If I wanted to edit the people, in this case, me and my wife, Ashley, when I would click on retouch, it would basically, we would just edit the entirety of both of us. but we don't want that. Like I drink coffee a lot more than my wife does, so my teeth could use maybe a bit more whitening. You know, maybe Ashley would want her skin smooth more than me. So now when you click on this retouch button, this is new. This is awesome. Before, it was basically all. You would just make these edits here. You can see teeth, eyes, skin, hair, and clothing. But now we have individual chips. We have individual thumbnails for each person detected. So I'm going to go ahead here and click on me. It zooms in on me. Now, like I said, I can go to teeth. And when I do, it automatically gives me the slider that I need. So if I want to whiten my teeth or not, I can do that. I can go to my eyes here. Maybe I want to add a bit more kind of like oomph to my eyes. And here's another kind of pro tip. If in Lightroom, anywhere in Lightroom, if there's a slider that you're not sure of what it does, the easiest thing to do is go from left to right. Don't look at the slider, look at the image and try to see what the change is. So here I see my eyes they pop a little bit more. So that's good there. Clothing, maybe I want to bring a bit more and pay. I hope you'll notice it's not an Eddie Bauer t-shirt. So
Yes.
yes. And so I've made edits to myself. Now I can click on Ashley, moves to her, and it detects the components of her. So here, same thing, teeth. Maybe I'm going to back off on the teeth whitening. Maybe I also want to make her eyes pop more. Maybe her skin, I'll soften it a little bit more. And her hair is not really showing here, so there's not much to do. But maybe I also want to take away emphasis from her shirt. Maybe it's a bit too kind of crunchy. So there you go. And now
That's
I'll click on,
impressive.
it's
That
amazing.
it's amazing because you just did very complex edits that require masking and you didn't have to mask a single thing.
No, no. And I
That's
want to
very
show you
cool.
one of the cool things. So here, if you click and hold, you can see, hopefully it comes through
It's
this.
subtle. It's
It's
subtle
subtle.
coming across the live
But you know
stream,
what?
but yeah,
You don't want, unless you're going for like this high key look or something, like generally
for
speaking,
sure.
I'm just kind of a what's the word? I'm preaching here where when you're editing portraits, especially subtlety is your friend. So the other
Mhm.
thing I want to show you to your point, Pay, is it's not just with like two people. So here, this is me and Ashley's parents. Same thing. If I go to let's click on auto really quickly, and then I'm going to click on actually I'm going to click on fix angle. This is a really good job. It's also subtle, but you can see how it actually just straightens the image. But if I go to retouch, four different people. So like I can make
Wow,
unique edits to each individual. And it's just like
that's very
super
cool.
quick. Yeah. So and I've tried it with like 7 or 8 people and it found everyone. So this is
Impressive.
available. Yeah. And Lightroom Mobile, quick actions again. The other thing that I didn't mention about quick actions is that it's adaptive. So if I were to open up an image, say of the landscape here,
And
it's going
it's
to
updating
adapt.
now also to show the edits that you just made,
Yeah,
right?
it will. It's
Yeah.
going the edits will come in, but
Hmm.
really quickly, notice how it has a sky, which we didn't have before.
Yeah.
Like it knows the type of image, and the quick actions will give you these editing suggestions based on the image itself. So I
Yeah.
think that's awesome. All right,
Yeah.
another thing I'm
Let
sure.
me have a look in the chat just really quickly,
Yeah,
Brian. I've been kind of
absolutely.
following along. So, first of all, I love that I know so many people who are here. We're getting hellos from Andrew Kavanagh, from Levon Hall, and,
Nice.
Anna Neubauer, Howard. Hi. Thank you guys so much for coming. Monica, Sean, Robert. So, everybody's very active. They're saying hello, and I am saying, I don't see any questions, but oh, I do. I have a question, but first I know Anna, and she just said no questions so far, but the updates are amazing with the little emoji heart eyes. So I love that. I love that you guys are liking what you see. And then Sean's question. He did have a question, but it's more of a just for fun. Did you get model releases for this stream? So you were showing your wife, you were showing your family. So I know some of us are working under this like blanket assumption that if you're in your family, you let me take your photo
Yeah,
and I may
my
share it on.
my marriage certificate is my model release, and
I
so yeah, no, these are
like that
all
answer.
yeah. I mean, and I'm going to show you people now who are part of the Lightroom team who I'm pretty sure they're okay with me showing this here. There's nothing like confidential. Um, but it is a nice segue to let me show you about
Yeah.
improvements to sharing. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Also, sorry,
yeah.
before you go on, I do have a question from Peter who wanted to.
Oh, wait, your audio cut out.
Uh-oh,
Oh,
can
there
you
it
hear
is. It's
me?
back. It's
Oh,
back. Yep.
sorry. Maybe I bumped something. So, Peter had a question about Classic. So my question is basically, as you're talking about some of the new stuff that was released, if there's anything that applies for Classic, will you just call that out? I'm not sure if you're planning, I don't think you're planning on showing Classic today because we're focused on the Lightroom ecosystem. But if
Right.
there's anything that's relevant for Classic users, can you please call that out?
100%. And so
Great.
right off the bat, the landscape masking is available in Classic.
Yes.
It's available in Adobe Camera Raw. It's available obviously in desktop and in the Lightroom web.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I do try to do that, but because I'm so focused on eco, like desktop, mobile, web, it's sometimes, I admit, sometimes I forget about Classic and ACR. Okay, I do want to show you though something. I love this because I would love to see this kind of behavior become the norm, especially whenever if people go to a party or a wedding or an event. Here's what I would love to see happen. So I went to San Jose. This is Adobe headquarters. That's Lisa No. That's Katrine Eisman, who we mentioned. Lisa is the product manager for Classic. We were here for a very fun project. There's Julianne Cost and Chris Ayers. Point is, I was taking photos during the week while I was here. Here's our group dinner. And I couldn't not include the 2024 Apple Mac App of the Year for Adobe Lightroom. Like it was
Very
there.
subtle, humble brag.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, listen, very well done to the team. Kudos. It is a
Yes.
super, super heavy award. Like it's a
We're
lot
very
heavier
proud.
than, yes. So I have this album here. Now, obviously, I just showed you that there were a bunch of other people that were here, either who work in California or who traveled in. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we can kind of like, everyone could just contribute their photos to a shared album that we can all have access to? So this I love. First, actually, before I do, I'll show you kind of an improvement to a sharing experience, just separate. Let's say I just want to share a few quick photos, like these 3 photos here. When I go to share now, you'll see this improved interface. So I can go ahead, I can either just share those images that I selected, or if I'm like, oh, I actually want to include Julianne and Chris, I can. So that's new. But let's say here, I get out of here. I want to share this album with people and I want them to also add their photos from the week. Well, if I go here to this little icon, it's a share icon, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click back and I'm going to change this to anyone can view. That's the first thing. So like anyone can view. This sharing experience was added to Lightroom Mobile, I think in the last update in February, if I remember correctly. So it's just really nice because you can customize things like maybe I want the album to have a white background and I can just customize the text here. Maybe, I don't want the 3. I just want to say anyone can upload. There's this switch over here. Anyone can add photos, which I'm going to enable. So by having this kind of public album that I can share one of 2 ways, the first is with a URL, which I'll show you in a second. The other, which I absolutely love, is this QR code icon. When I click it, we generate this awesome looking, like it's like a trading card. And it's got a QR code, which anyone can scan. There's the switch there to turn it on. I could download the QR code as a JPEG, or I can just share it. Point is, I can either show this to someone for them to scan, or I could give them the URL over here. And
Mhm.
so I'm going to click this really quickly, and I'm going to copy this from here because what I want to do, let me cancel out of here. I have an incognito window. So when you share with people, they can view it by default without having to log in. But if they want to contribute, I'm going to just go to this album here. They need to log in with an Adobe ID, which they can get for free. So this is, I
Mhm.
have many, many Adobe IDs, just kind of comes with the territory when you're doing testing.
For all your multiple personalities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, day of the week, exactly. And
Yep.
so you can see there's my little headshot there. But here, because I enabled that anyone can add, this is awesome. So imagine I'm separate Brian, split
Yeah, this
personality
is a
Brian.
totally, what we're looking at is access from a totally different account than the one you created and shared from. This is as if
Except
you're like a brand new person.
Yeah, or pretend this is you. Pretend this is your account. I sent it to
Hmm.
you. You click the link. You can see the images here. You can get
Hmm.
information about the images. But
Can
more
I edit them?
importantly, you can't actually, you can. Yeah, there is a way here. If I go to, there's a way to change the roles, and I think it requires you to be like private. Where
Okay,
if
yeah,
I
like
turn it
an individual specifically added to the
exactly, if I do
album.
invite
Okay.
only, and I go here, there is a way to where I could I could set the roles where you
Yeah.
can edit.
Yep.
But all right, so there's that. Really quickly, let me just make sure refresh that this is still here. Yep. So
Yep.
imagine pay this is you, and I click on,
Uh-huh.
and you're like, oh, I took photos. So I'm gonna
Hmm.
click on add photos here, and I'm gonna go to the desktop, and I've got this folder of a few other photos from the event, and I'm just gonna drag them here. So there are the 4 photos. I'm going to upload them. If I have the option of enabling location data, and so they're uploading here. Now, when it's done, you'll see these little check marks that will appear, and you can close and refresh. So here's the cool thing. Because this is now that all other people have contributed, we've added little avatar thumbnails or avatars to the thumbnails. So this is me. This is the account that I was working on here, my original account. But then you can see
The
the
real
image,
Brian Matiash.
the one, yeah, yeah, exactly. This is kind of
Uh-huh.
the weekend Brian, the party
The
Brian.
alter ego Brian. Yep.
That's right. And alter ego Brian added different photos. So here's another group photo here. Model releases notwithstanding. I think it's so funny that question was asked. It's
Uh-huh.
all. I mean, it's a good question.
Yep.
But you can see. Imagine that's my point. Imagine you had an event, Adobe
So
Max, or
let me
yeah,
share a very real life example, Brian. So I'm here in London. I live in San Francisco. I came to London not just for Max London yesterday, but 2 days ago I hosted a photography community summit. So I invited 30 community leaders, photography community leaders from around Europe to a summit here in London. We flew them in. We had a whole day of activities together. And at the beginning of the day, I created an album and I shared it with them with a QR code with an invitation for them to upload their own images. And now at the end of the day, 2 days later, we have this link to an album of images that everybody has contributed to. So it's just a really nice representation of all of the things that happened that day from the perspective of all of the different attendees of that day. So
so
it worked
awesome.
out beautifully. Yeah.
Absolutely. And those images, if I remember correctly, anyone can upload. If I go to grid, you can see, to your point, Pay, like, so this is desktop, which is it's the equivalent of obviously this album here, but you can already see the images flowed through, the ones that were uploaded. So I think,
Mhm.
oh wait,
I knew this was going
uh,
to happen, Brian.
I
I
knew
was
this
like,
was good.
you shared a QR code to the public and somebody scanned it and added a photo, which I kind
Yes.
of love. So thank you to, can you see the username?
Let's see if I go to info. Yep. Sean.
John, thank you for helping us illustrate our point and helping us
So
show this
good.
working in real time. I love
I
that. I really
love
appreciate
that.
it. I was
Oh,
actually
but
waiting for that. When you showed that QR code, I was like, oh man, this album, you're just gonna have to keep open. Whoever
yeah,
watches
but
this live stream at some
we're
point, even later, can totally add to your album.
We are going to make this though, because that can get dangerous very quickly. So we're gonna just turn that off. Really, this is live, friends. This is live.
Yeah,
So
Sean,
let's.
I appreciate you taking that initiative.
That's so good. I was wondering, but I was like, maybe not. Um. Oh, good.
I
Kudos.
I'm glad it's an appropriate photo. Thank you, Sean, for being mindful.
Yes.
Let me check the chat. I feel like there's some questions coming in. So
Sure.
let's see. Um duh, duh. Okay, I have a question from Nightwalker. Does anyone refer to the people you share the album with, or literally anyone? So yeah,
Oh,
I
anyone?
mean, I think I guess that question got answered because Sean was able to add that photo. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Sean says I'll remove it, but no, no worries.
No, all
Okay.
good.
Yeah, it's
Sean,
all
thank you for
good.
being a part of that. Yeah.
That was it was fun. So
Yeah.
all good. And then this is a question not related to the shared albums. Let me ask it, and then you can see if you can share the answer live or if you need to get back to someone. So Nightwalker also asks, will export to PNG and WebP be added soon? Would be nice for batch export without needing to go to Photoshop or Bridge. Do you know?
The silence will fill the void.
Yeah.
It's a
All right.
great question.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's something that I know you're meeting with Ben later today, who's the product manager
I am.
for.
Yes, I am.
So, night, what was his
Night Nightwalker.
Nightwalker? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Feature request received and acknowledged.
Perfect. That's great. Were there other features that you wanted to show that were just released yesterday, or anything brand new that you wanted to talk about, or relatively new
Yeah,
anyway?
super quick stuff. So I mentioned there, like sometimes like there are bugs that, okay, they're not maybe the sexiest thing to talk about, but for power users who really like to send photos from Lightroom to Photoshop as a smart object, this is for Lightroom desktop only. If you're a classic user, this wasn't affecting you. And I give kudos to my colleague Rick Floor because he's the one that filed this bug. And here's the bug. Before Lightroom 8.3, this is an image that has HDR. It has edits applied to it. If I were to send this to Photoshop as a smart object, so I have Photoshop open over here. There was a bug where, let me bring this up. If I were to, so here you can see it's a smart object by this little icon here. If I were to open this in Adobe Camera Raw, we kind of rendered the image when we sent it from Lightroom to Photoshop. And so these would all be zeroed out, which is a bummer because you want to preserve those edits. And as a smart object, you should be able to do that. Obviously, as you can see here, everything has been preserved. Even the masks were preserved here. And look at that, calling myself a liar. I didn't rename that mask. Like I'm a bad boy. But the other thing for me personally, that's very important, that was fixed as part of this, is that I edit everything in HDR now, 32-bit HDR, which you can access by this little button right here. Same thing in Lightroom Classic and in mobile and in web. Before, when we would send it as a smart object, we would convert it to a 16-bit TIFF, which means you would lose all that beautiful tonality. I know on the stream it probably looks terrible because Zoom doesn't support HDR. No problem. It looks awesome here, like the sun hitting off of the little tiny fishy. And so, again, a huge props to my colleague Rick and to the devs for fixing this. That's a big thing for those of us who use that workflow. And then lastly, well, okay, I don't have to show it, but basically reflection removal before only worked with RAW and supported RAW and DNG files. This is a JPEG that our friend Ketron graciously gave me. JPEGs now work in ACR. The other thing, I'm going to close out of this iPhone screen here. The other thing that I want to show you really quickly that's new that you might not know about, if I open up this DNG here, this is a photo that I took with an iPhone. Let's say here, actually, okay, yes, good, it's not here. Let's say I want to do two quick things. These are features that are in Adobe Camera currently. Let's say I want to add a quick denoise to the photo because the image is noisy, I can do that. In Lightroom currently, if you use AI denoise, it creates a new DNG file. If you're doing it in Adobe Camera Raw, it actually works with the original RAW or DNG. And then let's say I also go here and I want to enable Gen Expand. Let's say I want to actually make this, it's a bit too close to the bird's feet.
Hmm.
So I'm going to generate some extra space here. The thing that now happens in Lightroom, and I'll show you this right now, I'm just going to click on Done and quit Photoshop. Now, if you go to Lightroom, let's say I go to the local tab, which is where that photo is, Lightroom will now render those pixels, which is awesome. So the denoise and the Gen Expand will now be visible in Lightroom.
That
So
is cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
huge.
that's awesome. Yeah. Oh man, Brian, I really want to see reflection removal. We have just a few minutes. Let's check to see if there are
Sure.
questions. If there's time, I would love to
Oh,
see reflection removal because it is such a crowd pleaser.
I am
Um,
going.
but yeah, okay. So, is there any difference? Question, is there any difference between Lightroom and ACR? Quickly,
You can
elevator
think of
pitch answer.
ACR at a high level, Adobe Camera Raw as the kind of the develop module of, or the edit stack of Lightroom.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Awesome. Um, I think that we're about to get cut off. I'm a little bit uncertain of like exactly when this time will end.
okay.
Brian,
There's reflection
I
removal right here. If you want to
oh
show super quickly, please, just super quickly. There,
yeah,
there we
yeah.
go. So this is reflection removal
Um,
on a JPEG.
it's
Amazing.
amazing.
I mean,
It's
here, like, I
amazing.
mean, reflections, no
Yep.
reflections, JPEG. That's the feature.
And right now that works in ACR. Fingers
ACR.
crossed it'll come to Lightroom soon. We'll see.
You
Um,
never know.
Brian, thank you so much for your time today. It is always a pleasure to talk to you. The time always flies by so quickly. I can't believe our hour together is almost over. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for being an engaged and on top of it audience with that upload to the QR code shared album. Really appreciate you being a part of this. I hope that you go and try out the new camera or new features that were just released in Lightroom yesterday. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And please come back again for our next Adobe Live session.